Welcome to the Dupe Collaboration, hosted by Sabrina from Sab's Rehabs. It's just her and me on this one, and I'm excited for the results. Here's the piece that I want to duplicate from Pottery Barn. $16.99, 72-inch carved wood buffet. Here's my piece. So this piece doesn't really have a top because it had a china closet top on it that I removed. So it kind of has just boards that either need something pieced in it. These drawers are so super heavy and they have the plastic fronts to them. I was considering removing them, but I actually think the plastic part that is, but I think I'm actually going to leave them on the piece. But yeah, see, there's the top. It's tongue and groove the way they put it together. So I may replace the whole thing because it's not connected on there yet. Or I might just put a board in there. So that remains to be seen. So the back piece is loose, so that needs repair. So my dilemma is, how do I get my piece to look like the inspiration piece? I have a few ideas, so follow along. I'm tackling the easiest thing first and using my nail gun to reattach the back that's loose. Man, those doors are heavy. There had been some sort of interior glitter explosion inside the piece, so I had to get rid of all that. Next, I turn the piece on its back, and I make some marks that are similar to the way the bottom of my inspiration piece is. So I'm ready to cut, and I get my saw out, my jigsaw, and I start making that cut, and I get stopped because it can't go any further. Well, guess what? I did some research, and that doesn't come off of my jigsaw. My old one, I could remove that shoe, but this one doesn't. So I had to scratch that idea. I considered taking that piece off, but that front piece kept it from coming off. Because it was really heavily glued. So anyway, after looking at it, I see there's a little splitting there. It's that MDF. So I actually got out JB Weld because I knew that mud was not going to do it. And this stuff's actually the steel formula, so it's more for metal, but it'll work because I've done it before on wood. So you just mix the hardener into the cream, and I'm trying to film with one hand and stir with the other. So I just fix that little notch that I just put in, and then I also work on smoothing out those end pieces as well. I put a clamp on both ends to keep everything straight. When it's dry, I'm able to sand it relatively smooth. I'm not worried about complete smoothing texture here because of the treatment that I'm going to be giving the piece. I start to work on the drawers, removing the hardware and also deglittering this piece as well. It's really helpful not to have the top on the piece. I can kind of use it as a work table as well. This was quite the glitter explosion. I use Dixie Belle's White Lightning that's already mixed up in a spray bottle to clean the drawer fronts, and I follow it up with a rinse of water. And then I also do the same thing on the doors, removing the hardware and cleaning it as well. I swear the weight of the doors alone make up a good 40% of the weight of this piece. I'm using Dixie mud to fill in the little grooves in the front of the door. I'll be using a lot of mud, as you'll soon see. This comes in brown, black, and white, and right now I am using the brown, and you'll see in a little bit I run out of brown and I use some black. It's all good. After it's dry, I smooth it out. Again, relatively smooth, doesn't have to be perfect. Next, I apply a coat of Dixie Belle's Caviar to the inside sections of the drawers and the doors. I'm going to be doing a treatment on here, and I want the background to be black. Here comes the mud. I take a stencil that I got at Hobby Lobby. It's a Mandela stencil, and I'm using half of it to fill in a design on the left side door, kind of mimicking what we're seeing on the design and the inspiration piece. And it's kind of tricky to hold this stencil down. I didn't want to cut it because I'm planning on using it in different ways on the piece, so I just kind of held it down and hope for the best. So what I'm doing here is a raised stencil. I'm still using that mud, and you put it through a regular stencil. You usually want to use a Mylar stencil, not a silkscreen stencil, just to make sure that you're able to get it through. This is actually sort of a thin stencil. It's kind of nicer when you have a thicker one, but after I finish mudding it, before it dries, I pull it straight up. It's not a perfect impression, but it's going to work for my purposes. I continue, and I kind of split it up in thirds on the drawer fronts, and I also apply it on the other door in the opposite direction. Important to note that when you're done using this, if you want to reuse your stencil, you're going to want to wipe it off first with a paper towel. Do not take this to your sink immediately and rinse it down your sink, because it will harden in your drain and you will be calling a plumber. I begin to use the color Hurricane Gray and go over the areas where I did the mudding and around the frame, basically anywhere that isn't black. Then I touch up with the caviar again. Now I'm using a brayer and some more of the Hurricane Gray on some Iron Orchid Design stamps. These are the Bohemia stamps, and I'm just filling in some of those areas that are all black because I want a little more interest in those areas. I wanted a little interest in those corner areas as well. I continue to use the hurricane paint with the brayer and the stamps on the drawer fronts as well, just adding some interest where I feel it's necessary. Sometimes I get the paint where I don't want it, and then I can come back in and touch that up later. Now I'm going to take the white ink and also a little portion of the Bohemia stamp, and I'm going to begin to add some of that interest that you see on the inspiration piece. Little by little and layer by layer, I'm adding extra depth to this piece through the use of color and mimicking the detail on the inspiration piece. And I call it an inspiration piece because it's supposed to be a dupe. This really is not a duplicate. It's my take on it, basically given the piece of furniture that I have and the materials that I have to work with. So I would suspect that on the original design that, first of all, they didn't have that plastic molding to deal with. They were working with a flat surface. And I would imagine they used a laser cutter. So maybe Santa, if I'm very good, you could bring me a laser cutter and I could really begin to duplicate these designs or come up with a few of my own. So now it's time to figure out something for that top. I put the frame on, then take time to smile for a photo opportunity, and begin to cut some boards that will fit inside that frame. I get some boards pieced in, and then I use more Dixie mud. Now I'm adding a texture additive called Sea Spray into the remainder of the hurricane paint. I stir that up. I'm looking for a consistency that's kind of more like icing, kind of a thin icing, not anywhere nearly thick as peanut butter or anything. I want to see texture, but I also want to be able to spread it out with a brush. And it's kind of mixing in with the mud because it's still wet. And I'm just going for this big textured surface because obviously the boards aren't all a great matchup, so I just wanted to fill it in, and I'm just working with that texture. And like the rest of the piece, I'm using the plank stamp from Iron Orchid Designs with the white ink to give it that extra layer of a design element. I want to thank Sabrina from Sab's Rehabs for hosting this challenge, and don't forget to check out her channel. She's amazing. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, how about giving it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends? If you haven't subscribed, you'll want to do that so you don't miss anything. Visit us at LaVintageDecor.company, and on Instagram we're LaVintageDecor, and on Facebook we're LaVintageDecor Altoona. Stay well.